And welcome back to Pittsburgh Sports Now. This is Mike Vukovcan along with the coach Doug Biega in our first in-season edition of Hoop Scoop, sponsored by Beaver County Auto and our guy PJ Latsko. PJ, we appreciate the support you've given us in bringing Doug. Doug, this has to be your time of the year. You're not on the sidelines anymore for now, but your heartbeat and blood's probably going a little extra this time of the year.
Well, you know, that's something you don't outgrow. That's something you don't forget. You know, the spirit of competition is definitely bubbling inside all of us guys that used to do this for a living.
All right, last night, for those of you new to us here, Doug is going to be our basketball insider, and what that means is he's going to throughout the basketball season, he's going to be going to different gyms throughout Western Pennsylvania, primarily college, meaning Pitt and Duquesne. And he's going to evaluate what he sees systematically, player-wise, and bring you a coach's perspective of what he sees going on out there. And last night you were at the Peterson Event Center for Jeff Capel's first game at Pitt. And one of the messages you sent to me after the game was, one of the things you mentioned, I want to ask about this right off the bat, is you noticed systematically you were impressed with some things that Jeff Capel was doing. And first thing you brought off, anyone knows you, you're a defensive coach. You were impressed with their defense. If you just expound upon that.
Sure. I mean, they didn't deviate from script. They stuck with a half-court man-to-man defensive philosophy throughout the entire game. It seemed to bear results more in the second half than it did early on in the game. But even early in the game, with the intensity that was provided by that half-court man-to-man defense, you could see Youngstown State had trouble matching it. I think they had 2.6 minutes into the game. A lot of that could be attributed to the first game of the year, first half of the year jitters. But I really liked what I saw as far as them getting after it and playing really good fundamental half-court man-to-man defense.
A big part of coaching, you know, is adjustments. You see what someone's doing to you and you counterpunch, and any good coach has to adjust. Some Pitt fans might have been a little bit worried. They only went into halftime, I believe, with a 3-point lead. Mm-hmm. But in the second half, Youngstown State tied it up, and then Pitt went on a big run. What did you see adjustment-wise that Coach Capel might have said or implemented at the half?
Well, as I leaned to Allen at the end of the first half, I said I'm alarmed with Youngstown State on the offensive glass. Youngstown State has their tallest player was 6'9". Now you're in the ACC; those are sizes of guards in the ACC. So I was alarmed by Youngstown State having 12 offensive rebounds at halftime. And a lot of that could have been attributed to that they are a very three-point dependent team. So they were shooting a ton of three-point shots. I believe they shot 22 three-pointers in the first half. Now, when you shoot three-pointers, the rebounds tend to be long. So that can play a role in giving up a lot of offensive rebounds as well. But that was the biggest adjustment I saw, is they really held them to one and done in the second half. They took better care of the basketball. Their defense remained relentless. And I think their talent and their energy sort of wore Youngstown State down as the game went on. They were in the double bonus 9 or 10 minutes into the second half. And what that shows me is Youngstown State was unable to maintain or keep up with Pitt's intensity. They were unable to guard Pitt without fouling. And that plays a very big role in running away, which they did in the second half.
When people talk about attacking, for the most part, or a lot of times they think it's just defensively. But you saw Pitt on their first game last night. You liked what you saw as they attacked offensively, right?
Yeah, they went to the basket and they established a presence in the lane, not necessarily by having a low post player. What I mean by that is they were at the rim all night long. A lot of them were misses, but they were getting putbacks. So whenever you get to the rim, someone rotates out of position to help, and that opens up those offensive rebounds for Pitt in the second half. They didn't have a real perimeter threat last night due to Wilson Payne not playing. So, you know, I think it's only going to get better. But what I saw were a lot of guards getting to the basket, a lot of into the rim type of action that I saw that I liked.
As you mentioned, Wilson Frame wasn't. He was suspended last night, but Capel said after the game that he expects him to play on Friday night against VMI. Just talk to me. He was basically one of the few guys on the team that can consistently hit the 3-point shot. What's that going to do? What's that going to allow maybe Coach Capel and Pitt to do offensively with a guy that at least has the threat to shoot the three.
Well, it's going to allow them to do more of the same thing, only much more efficiently. If you have a guy that you at least have to address as a defensive coach, you have to address Wilson Payne out there in the three-point line. You just can't pack in the lane and stop those guys from driving. So just by his mere presence alone as a three-point shooting threat will open up those lanes for this guard motion offense that Coach Capel is running. It's going to get a lot better as he gets Wilson Payne back into the rotation.
All right, two guys that Pitt fans were most impressed with or excited about is, and they're no doubt going to be a big part of Pitt's future, were Xavier Johnson and Trey McGowan's. Xavier went for 16, McGowan's went for 17. Mm-hmm. You know, we hear quickness and athletic and all that stuff. Is there something that stood out to you specifically about those guys and from a fan, what you're going to like watching them? What are they going to give you?
Yeah, for what I heard from Coach Capel's post-game comments said a lot. He said those guys are addicted to being in the gym, and that's a good thing, and it shows. Actually, it showed with more than just those two guys. If you look at the bodies on these Pitt players, they were muscular last night. I commented, it looked like an old Bob Huggins Cincinnati team. They were pretty strong-looking kids out there. McGowan's looks like, you know, a real strong-looking athlete. Xavier Johnson had his own little 5-0 run in the second half that kind of made the game go from 13 to 18, and he kind of put it away a little bit. But from what Coach Capel said, the three freshmen, those two specifically, he has to throw them out of the gym at night, and they're the first ones waiting for him to open up in the morning. Now, if you have elite talent, which these guys obviously have, or they wouldn't be at Pitt, and you mix in a work ethic with that, gym rats, for lack of a better word, you're going to have something eventually. And that's real good to see out of a program that's starting to try to get its traction again.
Two more things here, Coach. Patience. Twitter was filled up and the message boards, people excited about those two guys. Pitt won a first, broke, I believe it was a 19-game losing streak. It's nice, I guess, from my perspective, I think it's nice to have something to look forward to. But I would imagine you're going to stress patience because this is still a big rebuild.
Well, it definitely is. And here's what I took from last night, and I looked at their schedule, and I have it right here. Pitt is going to be a better product than they were last year. Now, I don't know how many wins and losses that is going to translate to, but I would stress patience, and there's two things with that. First of all, let's look at their January schedule. Their January schedule, when the conference opened up, it's brutal. You have North Carolina, you have Louisville, at NC State, Florida State, at Syracuse. We all saw what Duke did to the number 2 team in the country last night. They played with them. At Louisville and at Clemson. That's a hard January right there. So you'll know right away, you know, where you're going to be. February lightens up a little bit. It looks like they might be able to steal some wins. So you will stress patience as if you're a Pitt fan. I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw from Coach Capel. I liked what I saw from his coaches, and I liked the way his kids responded to coaching every possession. There was no lackadaisical aura at all about the staff, all the way down to the towel guy. There was a lot of energy in the building last night, which was palpable. You could feel it. I've been to games. I went to a lot of games to see Sheldon play. And I didn't feel the energy in the gym that I felt there last night. And it was not a crowded game, but you see that the community, that the people at the university really want this coach to do well, and he will. Now, how long will it take to build this program? Now, do you want Pitt to be Duke right now? It's not going to happen this year. But basketball, different than football is. Football, you need 4 or 5 recruiting classes because you need to build talent, then you need to build depth. Basketball's different. If you can get 3 or 4 really good players, you immediately become a player in this. You saw again the reference Duke last night. I mean, you got 4 McDonald's All-Americans out there. They're automatically thought of as one of the better college teams in the history of the game just based on what we saw last night. And you have a guy with Coach Capel that can get you in the living room with those guys. Now, is he going to get all 4 like Duke did? Probably not. But he's going to get in the living room with all 4. And if he gets 2, you get 2 McDonald's All-Americans on your team. You know, you don't have to be patient. Basketball's the type of sport that you can microwave a really good team, and you microwave one good team, it just builds upon itself and you have a program. So yes, I would stress patience, specifically this year. But you got a guy in Capel that's going to get into the living room, and he's going to turn this thing around pretty quickly, I have a feeling.
All right, Doug's going to be out. We're scheduled, him and I, we're going to head out to Duquesne on Monday. We'll check out the Dukes, and we'll have another one of these Hoop Scoops sponsored by Beaver County Auto on Tuesday. But one thing about you, you're not on the sidelines full-time anymore, but you're staying busy basketball-wise. Just let us know what you're what you're involved in right now?
I'm involved in a lot. First of all, I love this. I love the opportunity that you have provided, as well as PJ. I also am working for the MAC conference, and I evaluate high school officials on Tuesdays, Friday nights when I'm available. I will go there, I'll watch the referees with the coaches, and I will evaluate the referees and give them some feedback on what I think I saw and communicate with them. And what that is, what we did last year was the pilot of the program. It kind of makes the high school coaches feel good to see one of their own at the scores table evaluating the officials as opposed to one of their own. They know I've been where they've been, and I was sick in the head like they were during games, so I could kind of talk to them in a language that they understand. So that's what I'm doing as far as the college and as far as the high school. And anybody who knows me knows I adore my son. He's in 3rd grade right now. He's involved with the Hopewell Youth Basketball Program. I took that entire program over grades 3 through 6 to try to at least point it in the right direction. And one day when these kids flip over, we could try to right the ship, as it were, for Hopewell Youth or basketball as a whole, not just youth.
All right, Coach, we will appreciate the time, and we will see you next week for another edition of Hoop Scoop with Coach Doug Biega.
Anytime. Thank you.